The first time I went to Thailand was 10 years ago, and that was for a girl, of course. While things did go good, she did show me around, introduce me to the food, and did the whole sightseeing thing. It did not exactly work out in the long run for us. It felt more like a holiday girlfriend than anything real, something nice while it lasted, with no pressure to force it into anything more. It was just something that wasn't meant to be. We did not exactly connect romantically, and I don't think there were any feelings from either side. But that's not the point of my story. I'm just letting you know about my first time there and getting introduced to the country. Since my first trip there, I knew it's a place I wanted to go to retire. It just stayed in the back of my mind after I left. The kind of place you don't stop thinking about once you have seen how easy life can be there. A couple of years after my first visit to Thailand, I started doing some serious thinking and researching about moving there. I looked into teaching because I have a degree. Even though I have never taught before, it still seemed like the easiest job to get there as a Farang. Things finally got real when a good university job in Bangkok that I applied for replied to me and gave me an online interview. I must have done something right because I got the job. At first, things was going smoothly with my teaching job, learning Thai and enjoying a relaxed but very basic lifestyle in Bangkok. I wasn't living large and I was saving a lot, but life felt good, and for the first time in a while, I wasn't stressing over every little thing. Things went sideways when I was offered a different teaching job at a private school. It was more pay and closer to my place, so I thought it was a no-brainer and I took it. It turns out they only wanted me on a temporary basis, but did not tell me that. I was under the impression that it was a full-time job like they made out. So unfortunately, after 3 months, they told me they did not need me anymore. I tried to go back and apply to the university that I had been teaching at prior to, but they were having none of it. Eventually, I ended up in the south of Thailand, teaching at some rundown school for half the pay I was originally on. Not the ideal situation for me to be in, but at least I was making an income, I guess. Things, of course, did not stay smooth sailing and life had other plans. I had to return back home for a major operation. I could have done the operation in Thailand, but in my opinion, one good thing about my country is the healthcare, and I think it is a lot more dependable than what you would find in most parts of Asia. Once I fully healed up from the operation and dying to leave the country again, I flew back to Thailand and got the first job I could find, teaching at a high school about an hour outside of Bangkok. The next part of my story is me admitting how easy it was for me to fall for things, how many warning signs I completely ignored, and how I thought I had it all figured out. I had dated a few Thai girls while I had been working and living in Thailand over the years, but nothing really amounted to anything serious. That was until I met this one girl online that I had no idea how much things would get twisted when we first matched. With the area that I was in, there wasn't much luck at finding a girlfriend. Hardly anyone spoke English, and all the decent girls there normally already had boyfriends or husbands. Most of my hunting for dates happened online. Dating sites and apps are still massive in Thailand. They are flooded with working girls though, so you still have to do your homework after matching with these girls. Most of it became a habit after a while, checking photos, reading between the lines, and hoping the story actually matched the profile. Now and again, I'd be flicking through the profiles on there, matching with a stunner and crossing my fingers that she is a decent girl and not working. I would always be matching with girls in Bangkok, which gave me a great excuse to go away for the weekend and have fun in the city. But again, none of them really panned out and became anything more than a weekend fling. Now, on to the girl I matched with that my story is based around. When we first matched, I admit I did trim a few years off my real age, while she put on a couple extra to hers. After talking for a bit, we agreed to meet up at a night market in Bangkok and just see where the night takes us. Didn't have much plans set out after meeting. It was meant to be casual, no expectations, just meeting face to face and seeing if there was anything there at all. When we first met, we didn't stick around the market for long. We went to a bar, had a couple of drinks, made small talk about nothing special, and that was pretty much it. We ended the night with her going back to her place and me going back to a hotel. I got the picture that she might be a bit more classy than the girls I'd usually meet. She did, however, say that she will come back and pick me up tomorrow at the hotel. But as she wanted to go back to hers that night, I didn't hold my breath. True to her word, sort of, she rang me up that afternoon and showed up at my hotel. Had some daytime drinks, went back to the hotel for some time in the pool, rinsed off, and yes, we did the thing that comes next. This girl wasn't some high-class model-looking type of girl, but she had this fun personality, like she was enjoyable to be around and not boring, if that makes sense. And from what I could see in the early days, she seemed pretty well off. Well, better than the average Thai. Cash didn't seem to be an issue, like, at all. Early on, she never brought me up to her place. She claimed she shared a place with her stepmom in one of Bangkok's high-rises. We would start spending the weekends together, which would be nice hotels across Bangkok, fancy dinners, rooftop bars, and expensive drinks. The thing is, though, I wasn't the one spoiling her or simping over her. It was quite the opposite. That part alone threw me off because it wasn't what I was used to at all, especially when it comes to Thailand. I would chip in on the bills and offer to pay now and again, but for the most part, she covered everything and would even refuse to let me pay. A few months in, she got another place, another high-end condo right in a posh place in Bangkok. She claimed she bought the place as an investment, planning to live there briefly and then flip it next year when the prices jump. So, what did I actually know about her back then? She grew up in Chiang Mai, moved to Bangkok when she was young, and she was fresh out of university. Now doing freelance gigs. And no, not that kind of freelance. That was the version she gave me, and at the time, I didn't question it or dig any deeper than that. She said her family had money. Her old man was ex-military, now retired to some farm up in Isan where he once lived. Her brother was a policeman near the border. Her birth mom had passed, and her stepmom floated between Bangkok, the Isan farm, and Chiang Mai after retiring herself. She and her brother supposedly handled the family assets, land, a handful of condos, and other stuff. I mentioned earlier that she wasn't some high-class model-looking girl, so it took some time for me to adjust to her with the curves, the quirks, and all of that. Once I settled into it, it stopped bothering me, and I started seeing her for what she was instead of what she wasn't. Was it love? Maybe not yet. but I sure liked how she looked after me, right down to paying every bill. A young, well-off, soft-edged Southeast Asian woman with enough patience to put up with a miserable old fart like me. After about 2 months of being with each other every weekend, a lot of my stuff had been dumped at her new place. Kind of like moving in, but not official, and very, very slowly. It just sort of happened without either of us really saying anything about it. I kept my teaching job and that small room, so we spent part of each week apart. But even when we wasn't together, we would be talking, planning the next trips, and everything couples do. This odd, soft girl, packed with secrets and little shocks I never saw coming. Now, the next part of my story, the one where things get a little weird, just when I started things are going good. Some wealthy grandma that had passed away had left her fortune to my girlfriend, but she could only touch the cash if she got married or at least engaged. It took her a few days to tell me the whole thing, complete with 2 backup actors confirming it to me online, her brother and some family lawyer. She never pushed me. If anything, she hesitated, acted almost ashamed to bring it up. As for me, I'd already bought into the fantasy of this relationship being real. My common sense drowned out by meeting a girl that liked me and wasn't after my money. And just like that, she got to setting up our Thai engagement out in Isan, where her father lived. I finally met her father, a quiet man who liked to keep himself to himself. The house didn't match what I'd pictured for a family with money. It was a lot better than some of the shack-style houses you do see in Isan, but nowhere near the luxury I'd imagined. My girlfriend said that even though they have money, her father preferred the quieter life just on the farm, and if he's happy with that, then who am I to judge? Thai folks don't treat engagements lightly. Half of the village showed up. Food, music, drinks. The day started off with a line of monks chanting blessings. We knelt in front of them and finally accepted the mountain of food piled up by us and the other guests. My girlfriend had to tell me all of this before it happened, because I had no clue how all of this worked or what I even had to do. Then some other guy walked up, sat himself across from us, and simply asked me straight, what was I ready to provide for her? A promise to marry her? And what exactly was I bringing to the table in goods and cash? After that part, that felt more like a confrontation than a Thai tradition, we went outside to the party, where I got dragged into photo after photo, every aunt, cousin, and random neighbour lining up for their turn with the Farang fiancé. 2 more days went by like that, and by the time the weekend was over, I was officially engaged. Though, after everything I'd just been through, it felt more like we had just gotten married. After the engagement, we grew closer. I got a new place closer to Bangkok, but further from work. Not too far though. Now we could be together non-stop. My place during the week and her condo on the weekends. Life felt good back then, and I miss that part the most. We was planning a Christmas trip that December to Italy if we could get her a visa so she could finally meet my family. She insisted on paying for the flights and even talked about a little Europe tour. For a bloke like me, it felt unreal. Before we applied for a visa or anything, she told me that she had to go to Isan for a week for her father, but told me not to join her because it would be boring for me. Nothing about it raised alarms at the time. It sounded normal enough. Maybe she just missed him, or he needed her help for a bit. I understood, and I had work anyway, so I was fine waiting for her to return. While she was gone, she was slowly starting to avoid my text messages until finally she completely ignored them and I couldn't get in contact with her. At first, I brushed it off, thinking she was busy or dealing with family stuff. But 1 week turned into 2, and then 3, with no contact whatsoever. By the end of the 3rd week, I just assumed my story ended up like most others. The girl I had met had found someone else, or she already had someone else. I'd already made peace with that in my head. I wasn't the first Farang this has happened to, and I certainly won't be the last, so I just started moving on. It wasn't the end of the world. I was disappointed because I really did like her, but I wasn't going to shed any tears over it. About a month after not hearing anything from her, I went to the ATM one day after work. Over 400,000 baht was missing. I wasn't earning great money from teaching, but a lot of that money was savings I had brought with me. My stomach dropped. I went to the bank. They showed me a string of ATM transfers, not withdrawals, transfers, all done over a few days. They told me to file a police report. I still hoped there was some simple explanation, even though deep down I knew there probably wasn't. I kept calling her until she finally answered, and I asked if my card was at her place. I tried to act a bit dumb. She played the same game, big concern, lots of questions, and offered to come with me to the bank. At this point, I did not even care about she had avoided me for a month. I was more concerned about my money. That became the only thing I was focused on finding out. Although I was 99% sure she had something to do with my money going missing, I couldn't actually prove it yet. I was stuck in the middle ground where everything felt wrong, but I had nothing solid to act on. So all I could really do was wait and watch. We stayed in touch, but it was nothing like before. We spoke a couple of times a day, but never met up and we never went on dates. I waited over 2 months for the progress on the bank case. She kept saying, still waiting for the report, and one day I'd had enough. I went to the police station alone, and the report was already there. The bank had sent over the full list of dodgy transactions and the ATM camera shots. Not all of them was clear, but you could see enough. Her shirt, her bag, then finally her face, right there at the ATM, using my card and transferring money into 2 accounts I've never heard of. Seeing that was the moment everything stopped being a suspicion and turned into something I couldn't deny anymore. I did have 2 cards, but I never used the other one, which was meant to be for a savings account, so how she got that to work, I still have no idea. She clearly watched my PIN, taken the card from my wallet, used it over a few days, and then she forgot to put it back. By then, I wasn't confused or second-guessing anything. I just wanted answers face to face. I walked out of the station seeing red, got on my bike and drove straight to her, telling her she needs to meet me now. I grabbed her phones and put them in my pocket. She instantly knew something was wrong. First thing she asked was whether I'd been to the police. I said, "What the F have you done?" It took hours of me pressing her before she started talking, and even then I knew I wasn't getting the full truth. Her new story was that the family had a lot of gambling debt and in trouble with some serious people. Up until now, these guys had been using the family because they owed them the money, using her brother's connection with the police to drag them into shady businesses, putting condos in her name, moving cash around, and doing other favours. When she met me, one of them wanted to see how much he could squeeze from me. Once he knew roughly what I had, he forced her to use my card and send money to his people. According to her, she never wanted to do it. She was scared. She just was obeying orders. Suddenly, the rich Chiang Mai background turned into poor farmers in Isan. The so-called will, the grandma's inheritance, the big family assets, it was all just BS. The engagement was real, with real monks and real people, but the story behind it was fake. And the real estate stuff that she dealt with, looking back, I don't know who was real and who was acting. If someone had told me, pay this amount for 6 months of a 5-star honeymoon with a young chubby girl who acts like she loves you, I probably would have said yes. That's basically what happened, just without asking. With her being able to pay the bill every time we went out, fancy restaurants, fancy bars, and all that jazz, makes me believe I wasn't the only person she had scammed or is currently scamming. She started crying, saying she was tired of her family getting into this, that she'd been forced, that she wanted to fight back. But by then, I didn't believe a word of it. The whole fantasy had collapsed. I'd been living in her made-up world and calling it love. I grabbed my stuff and left, told her to save her stories for the police. She later promised she'd pay me back soon, so we set a deadline. If she didn't pay, I'd go hard with the police. Even saying that, I knew I was walking a thin line and didn't really know how much leverage I actually had. I was also scared to push too much. You hear enough stories about Farangs getting framed in Thailand. Jail there is no joke. I kept a bag ready with clothes and my passport just in case. When the school year had finished, I didn't renew my contract or my room. I decided to go back to Italy for a year or so and just take things slow. Leaving felt easier than staying. I just didn't trust anyone anymore because of what she had done. I didn't feel the same excitement in Thailand as I once did. I still had her on all of my socials. I told myself it was to keep my enemies close, but the truth is, I still had hope she'd fix it somehow. I watched her nights out, drinks, selfies, and sometimes I'd snap and leave comments like, enjoying my money. She later said she was drinking so much because she couldn't sleep from all of the guilt. The date came when she was meant to pay me back, and guess what? No money, just excuses. That was when I stopped believing anything she said was actually going to happen. Her last big promise was about the condo. She said the luxury apartment where she lived was still under her name. She'd get the property papers from the boss, sell it below market rate, and pay me back in one go. Within a month, she claimed to have done everything and even had a buyer lined up. 2 days passed, then 3, then a week, nothing. That was it. I blocked her, sent everything to a lawyer in Thailand, screenshots, fake documents, messages. I finally accepted it was over, and I accepted I wasn't going to get anything back from it. Once I'd sent everything, that was it. There was nothing left I could do my side. I never heard from the lawyer, the police, or the bank again. I just gave up with no real ending. I never got the money back. I never saw her again. And to this day, I don't know what was real. The money, the bad guys in the stories, the properties, any of it. So I just had to move on. Deep down, a small part of me still wonders about the chubby girl. What she's doing now, the whole mess. But life goes on. The money's gone. Whatever we had, real or fake, that is also gone. All that's left is the part of me that stayed in Thailand. The bit of my soul that never came back. So guys, it's not just Thai bar girls that might try and put a fast one on you. It's also the so-called normal girls. So be safe out there. Keep your girls close, but your money closer.